Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Asher Marketing Podcast. I'm Anthony Giuliano, and my guest this week is Randy Smith. Randy, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for being here. So you were just coming off commencement and all the chaos that comes with that. So what's that like? How long does it take you to kind of get ready for commencement? I know it's a full weekend, but what's all that like? What kind of a draw is that on your time?
What's it like? It's like, I don't know if you've ever been to Orlando.
Yeah.
But you're in Orlando Airport and you see those parents and they're all disheveled and they're holding like 3 of their kids and they got like 6 suitcases and they're sunburnt and they're just, that's what commencement is. It's just like this, it's a great event and there's a lot of hardworking people that make it happen. Yeah. And I'm responsible for capturing all their hard work. Yeah. And it's something that just happens all at once, and it's a lot of pressure, but at the same time, it's kind of the finish line. It's kind of the fun. Yeah. It's the celebration of all these students' hard work. And this year actually was my 4th year, the completion of my 4th year at Tech. Okay. So these students that graduated this year were the ones that started. So I went through this whole journey with them. So it was extra special this time. But yeah, a lot goes into it. It's like our president calls it our Super Bowl. Yeah. And it really is. It's like this big celebration. It's a lot of fun, a lot of work, but I mean, it's definitely worth it.
Yeah. Well, and going back to your Orlando analogy, it's kind of like the happiest place on earth with a cost.
Exactly.
With quite a toll taken along the way.
Yeah. I mean, it is. It's grueling. I mean, it's pretty much like 48 hours, like, where you get to sleep, but then you're back on it the next day.
Well, the person I feel the most stress for is the photographer that has to take the individual photos.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, you mess up one of those and everybody in that person's family is going to know it. I couldn't do that job. So kudos to him. Yeah.
It is a lot of pressure. I mean, because I do obviously event photography. Yeah. And my least favorite is like on stage during an event. Yeah. It's like, because they're there and people give me a hard time because they're like, you take like 50 pictures. It's like, well,
that's what it takes.
If you can not blink, then I'll only take one.
Or breathe.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, but if you get that, face where, you're half blinking, look like you're asleep, it's like no one wants that. So there is a lot of pressure there, and I do not envy that.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk more about your work at Indiana Tech, but I want to start at the beginning. And where I'd like to begin is have you talk about what you were thinking about when you were a kid, when you were in high school, whenever it was, what you were thinking about career-wise, where that took you, and whether that was the path you ended up on or if you took a detour at some point.
Sure. I actually started out, and I don't know if anyone would ever believe it, but architectural engineer. That's what I wanted to do.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. I loved building things. I loved but what I discovered as I grew older and got further into my schooling was that there are 2 sides of your brain. One,
if you're lucky.
Exactly. Yeah. One likes to create things and make things, and the other one does math. Mm-hmm. That side of my brain, it's either sleep all the time or it just doesn't function like other people's. Yeah, but I was brain. Yes, I was very good at like concepting and drawing and creating. Yeah. But I realized that there are other venues for that. Mm-hmm. But really, I loved CAD. I loved drawing and making buildings and houses, and it was what I was going to do. And then once I realized I couldn't handle calculus, I started to have other conversations and started to kind of second guess what it was I was doing. Luckily, this was early on, like in high school. And then I got introduced to video production class kind of like through a friend. Yeah. It's like, you should try this out. It's kind of fun. It's kind of a, they were looking at it like a blow-off class. Yeah. And so my sophomore year of high school, I joined a video production class where we were responsible. I mean, besides making like our side projects that we had to do for like assignments, we were responsible for like the news for the school every morning. Yeah. And we had to have like stories that we had to like, so you've got a deadline that you're working against. Yeah, exactly. Like, so we had to make these stories. So I kind of took it upon myself, which my best friend was in the class with me. And we would go out and we would shoot these little like segments. Yeah. And I knew that I had something that I knew that I was doing something special when I would show my teacher, in his office, like, hey, this is what we came up with. You know, I'd show it to him, and he would laugh hysterically, and then he would look at me and he'd be like, Randy, we can't show this. And then, but that tingled a very specific part of my brain was like, I want to do more of that.
Yeah.
I want to make people laugh, but in a way that's like, I don't know if I should be laughing at this.
Right on the border, yeah.
Yeah.
So where'd you go to high school? Was it Northeast Indiana? Did you grow up somewhere else?
Yeah, it was actually about 40 minutes from here in Columbia City.
Oh, yeah.
I went to Columbia City High School, and then from there, moved to Fort Wayne at the age of 18.
Okay.
Kind of never looked back.
All right. Okay. So you learned video production, and you're doing it in sort of a semi-professional way as a high school student. Then where do you go from there? You know, and I'll disclaim that when I first heard your name, somebody said, like, Randy does these golf videos, kind of like Dude Perfect, but with golf. And I was like, I don't know what that means, but I'm intrigued. So how do you get from video production in high school to all that?
Yeah, so I'll be honest, I went to college still with the mindset of I was going to be an architectural engineer.
Okay.
It wasn't until like just relentless like study halls and actually had personal tutoring that I realized I just wasn't going to make the math work.
Yeah.
It just wasn't going to be, and it's unfortunate because I feel like I really had a passion for it, but I also had this kind of like, if more like a hobby in the background, and I was like just kind of desperate. I actually dropped out of college for a semester, just kind of like, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life.
Yeah, I had the same experience.
Yeah, and it's kind of it's overwhelming at that age because it feels like if you don't make up your mind now,
it feels like it's terminal. Like if I don't get this right, I'm screwed.
Yeah.
And it's totally not.
Yeah, you're like you're picking the side of the road, like the ditch you're going to sleep in,
Correct.
because you just think everything's going to go wrong. And I was like, well, I guess before that, I'll try video production.
Yeah.
So I went in and I changed my major to media and public communication with
Where were you going to school?
IPFW.
IPFW, yeah.
I have PFW now, but IPFW then.
Yeah.
So I changed my major to media and public communication with a minor in film. I kind of take these initial classes that are around video production, and it kind of like, it felt like, you know, you just put that glass slipper on. It just felt...
Yeah, it's like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Exactly. Yeah. And you meet your people.
Yeah.
And I think that is probably one of the most important things about college. I mean, I guess you could say the education. I guess I'm supposed to say that. But it's really about the people that you get to meet and the connections that you make. And I met my people. And these are people that were like weird like me and thought like, you know, in these same avenues as I did.
I always say it's like learning your place in the world.
Yeah.
It's like you figure out how you work, how you don't work, and where you might be productive, and who you want alongside for the ride.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I started making these films with the intention of like, these are my projects, but I would have done these without any incentive. Like these were things that I was really passionate about. So I just so happened to go to school with that same best friend that was in my video production class.
All right.
Who we had made films together since we were, 14 years old.
Okay.
Like I remember we did a project for his history class. It wasn't even my class. It wasn't my project. And we made a mockumentary for one of his history projects. And I remember his teacher coming up to me after he showed it in class and was like, what? Like, what do you, like, it was about it. It was just real quickly. It was like a war kind of thing. And we had like legit explosions, like totally like, I don't know.
So it's like half History Channel, half Jackass.
Oh yeah, no, seriously. It was like how, like, it was so reckless and so dangerous, but it was, I look back on it now and I'm, 20 years later and I'm like, that was well done. Like, I never would have like let my kids do that.
Oh,
but
sure.
It was well done. But after I get to college, I start making these same kind of projects where it's just like passion projects. Like I feel like I'm just like, I'm living on that edge of creating and time is all connected. And it's just like, I'm just like living in it. Like so much so that like there were some editing booths in the basement at IPFW. I can say that. I love that because I'm referencing it. I always have to catch myself.
Let's just keep calling it.
Yeah, I agree.
See if the authorities bust down the doors.
I'm in the basement and there's no windows, and I would have these days where it would be like I would go down there at like 9 o'clock in the morning, and then when I would leave, it would be dark.
Yeah, you get in that flow.
Yeah, exactly. So we start making these projects, and I start showing them to professors, and I start showing them to students. Yeah. And I got that same reaction. It's like, this is really good stuff. Like, you in no way touched on the subject matter I wanted you to, but you made something really amazing. And, you know, it encouraged me to put it into like some film festival stuff, which it was really amazing to just to watch people watch something that you just pulled out of your head. And it became like, I don't want to, it became like a passion for me. It's something that I still to this day, it's one of the greatest feelings I've ever had in my professional career is where you just get hit by that lightning bolt and it doesn't just stay a thought. It becomes like this physical thing and you get to show people and you get to change people's perspectives or lives or make them laugh. I mean, for me, that's the whole thing. It's like if I can make somebody laugh, it's like pure joy.
Oh, yeah. So I'm going to ask this question knowing that your answer will probably go way over my head, but all I know is you're younger than me. I don't know what vintage you started working on video stuff, but what is the tech like at that point? Are you doing it handheld? Are you how is it how is that coming together and what does that look like compared to what you're using today?
I mean, so the you're like 2003, 2004.
Yeah. So, this is like right when YouTube is a thing because YouTube is like 2004.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, you brought up YouTube earlier as far as like, you know, I was actually on YouTube in 2005.
Okay. So you're user number 6.
I was there early on and I actually had like 1,000 subscribers back then, which was huge because, but the thing is there was no monetization. There was no money. So I'm sitting here putting like days of work into this stuff, you know, all the while like going to school full time and working full time, like, you know, just trying to like balance all this together. And I'm like, this is dumb. Like, why am I doing this? Like, but I was just posting stuff on there that I was making for my college classes that I thought was entertaining and thought was fun. And I'm making all this stuff and it's great, but I was one of those nerdy kids. I had my own camera. I went out and bought a Sony Handycam. Cost me $2,000 back then, which was nuts. I mean, I took every penny.
Especially since you're not making any money off YouTube.
No, exactly. I'm not making anything. I bought this for just the pure creation. You know, it's like that anybody that goes out and buys something to kind of support their passion, what they want to do. But shot onto mini DV tapes. It's shot in 720, which was like legit. Like it was like, you know,
and now that's like the bare minimum for
if you shoot if you're shooting 720, people are like, why?
What are you doing?
Why are you doing this to us?
But
so it was log and capture. It was sit down. I had to take a tape and I had to mark ins and outs as far as what I wanted. Then I had to play that back and then it would digitally capture that tape. That way I could take it into the original Final Cut Pro back in the day. And then I could edit that out. But yeah, the equipment has improved drastically, but the process is the same. You know, there's nothing. That's what's so great about the medium is like it's still very much the same. Like you can go digital, you can have an 8K camera, but you know you're doing the same thing that people were doing with reel to reel. You know, like it doesn't.
You still have to have a good story too.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you're doing this as a passion project. You're doing it in school. You're studying it. When do you start getting paid to do it, and where does the golf stuff fit in?
You're supposed to get paid for that? Okay. No, so that's great. So I'm going to school for this, and I'm just having fun. I'm not doing anything as far as like thinking about my future, which I will tell you now, if you're a college student, I like speaking to people as if I'm inspiring them to make better decisions than I did. That's like my whole goal in life is like if I can tell you the pitfalls and all the potholes that I fell in, and it makes your journey a little easier, I've done my part. So I like to think of it that way where it's like I'm sitting there and I have a full-time job and I'm going to school full-time and I kind of got to figure out where I'm going to make this, you know, put this together. Luckily, I have an amazing wife. Who?
When did you meet Megan?
I met Megan when I was 20, on my 21st birthday.
So while you're at IPFW?
IPFW. I was actually walking out of class with her and, you know, just kind of started a conversation. And luckily, through that conversation, she had just started working with a photography studio here in town called BFA. At the time run by Tim Brumbelow and Jeff Crane worked there, who are two like fantastic photographers. And I would say as far as like in the Fort Wayne area, probably the best at what they do. And somehow just out of that dumb luck of like my wife finding a job there was like, you should probably intern there. And I'm like, what's that? She's like, well, that's where you need to go in there and you need to gain experience, because when you graduate, you're not going to be able to walk into a job without experience. And I was like, I don't know how she had that knowledge at that time. It seemed like maybe her parents were better than mine were.
We'll edit that part out if your parents listen.
Leave it. They love to hear that stuff. So I get an internship at BFA.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. I'm still to this day, I will give them credit for every single thing that I have obtained professionally within the photography world. Like, I know nothing about photography if it wasn't for those two, because I went into it like, I'll just assist you, but my whole world was video. I knew nothing about, it's like it's hard to explain to people that, when you get hired for a job, they're like, oh, you're a photographer. Well, you're also a videographer. Oh, you're a videographer. Right. You're also a photographer. It's like, no, they're completely different.
And there was a time when that wasn't true.
It still isn't true.
My image of Tim for a long time was he's a photographer. Correct. If I need video, I got to go somewhere else.
Exactly. Yeah. And you live into that, and but the unfortunate side of that is you have to adapt. So and I say unfortunate because it's like being a photographer, a good photographer, let alone a great one, it's a lot of work. Yeah. It's a lot of dedication of your time, and it takes a lot to hone that skill. Yeah. So now when you're a photographer and you have to fit into this videographer peg, or vice versa in my case, you have to then commit more time into the other because you're not as good at that. Yeah. You don't have the skills it takes to be on that level, to have professional work. So for me, when I would go to that internship and I would work with them, it was just like, it was so mind-blowing, like how much stuff I didn't know about photography. Yeah. You see a picture in a magazine, and it does nothing for you. You're just like, that's a picture in a magazine. But you have no idea what a good picture is and what a bad picture is until you see them side by side.
Yeah, for sure.
They don't put bad pictures in magazines. Yeah. They just put good ones there. But the work it takes to make that look so effortless and make it look so natural and real, it's mind-blowing. Yeah. So picking up, I was just like a sponge. I just took everything that those guys had to offer and ran with it. And I'm not the first, and I won't be the last. Yeah. I mean, there are so many great photographers / videographers in the Fort Wayne area that worked under those two and owe a lot to those two. And I think all of them would give them, the props that they deserve because, they've been doing it for so long. And not only that, but they have no problem in opening up the kingdom and just letting you see how everything operates. Yeah.
Well, I think they are really generous in that way, and they probably realize that there's plenty of work out there for everyone. One of the things I really like about that perspective, especially since you have the ability to work alongside students, is I get this probably more than you do because I'm older than you, is people kind of see you where you are today.
Yes.
And it's a mystery how you got there. And then it's fun. It's fun for me to tell college students, hey, there was a point I was doing telemarketing for a company, and I had to say it's the savings of the green sale on the phone, and that's one of my first jobs. I have not always been where I am fortunate to be today.
Yeah.
And, I think it's great that you've hung on to that with both hands because that is what people need to hear. Yeah. They need to hear that it's a journey. It takes some generous people teaching you. It takes some mistakes, and it takes some learning to get there.
Yeah. I've always been grateful of people that I can learn things from. And I don't know why I have that mindset, but anytime I have something that's there that I can learn from, I'm going to absorb as much of it as possible. I think that a lot of people, and I hate it when people like try to break it down by like generations or anything, but there's just some people that they get put in these situations where they have nothing but opportunity and they just don't take advantage of it. And it's like, while you're there, absorb as much of it as possible, learn as much as you can, and then that's going to help you later down the road. I mean, all that fight, all that struggle, it all pays off in the end.
Yeah.
Now,
sure.
I get wildly distracted by my own thoughts. So you asked me probably like 6 questions so far. I think I've answered one of them. So I'm going to try to go back to...
That's right. We're very free range here.
Where I got, I turned this into a career. So I got my internship at BFA, and then we start moving you know, during this time had always worked for a golf retail store here in town called Bobix Golf.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate enough there to have, once again, this awesome dynamic and this great family atmosphere. And my boss there kind of realized, you know, like what I like to do. And he's like, do you want to like make like our commercials or something? And I'm like, yeah. So, I mean, for a very long time, and still to this day, make Bobix Golf commercials that aren't like the Sunday, you know, I don't make those, but like the ones that look like actual.
Want to save a little green when you're on the greens? Yeah.
If he hears that, he's going to make me put that in there. No, but he trusted me to make those, and I started to make those, and actually like customers used to come into the store and be like, I really like your guys' commercial. And it's like, and like that kind of like stirred something like, oh, there's something like I'm wasting my time here. And not in a bad way, but it's like I have more to offer than this. So I started with, I guess it was kind of sneaky. I was like, I started making these little videos that were once again just these like pet projects in my head, and kind of were branding them with golf so that he wouldn't get so mad when he'd see me working on them. I'm like, oh, it's for the business. It's for the business. But from that, I started a golf YouTube channel. And just basically, it's a golf YouTube channel that is, I would say probably 50% of the people that watch it maybe never even played golf, because it's just like, and
this is a potentially stupid question, but did you play golf?
Yeah, I played golf actually at IPFW.
Okay.
Yeah, so golf had been a big part of my life, and so now I was like combining the two.
Nice.
It was like I had golf, I had video, and it was just like this once again like lightning bolt moment where it was like I'm doing two things that I've always loved to do. So the passion was there, and anytime that you can put heart or passion into your work and it resonates with people, it's like it's more, it connects more with people than any kind of advert or any kind of marketing that you could ever create.
Yeah. Well, it's authentic, and that energy is very contagious. It just is, and you can't replace it. If you don't have it, you can tell that too. Yeah. So you're doing this for Bobix, and you're doing some stuff on the side with the YouTube channel, and hopefully now you're making some money off YouTube at this point. So is there another stop along the way before you come to Indiana Tech, or is Indiana Tech your next stop?
No, yeah. So during that time while I'm working at Bobix, like I feel like you and I have some similarities, some parallels when it comes to, I don't think that either one of us sits still well.
No, not at all.
We like to always be busy.
Yeah.
And that was my MO, was like, so I had a full-time job at Bobix. I was making, YouTube content on the side of that, and then I was also working freelance for BFA.
Okay.
So in that freelance position, I would go with them on shoots to like cover Indiana Tech's commencement or to cover homecoming or something like that. And I would kind of get that familiar side of how things operated within, the university and the kind of content that they were creating and also capturing. So when the position opened up, Julie Farrison, who is my supervisor now, reached out to Jeff and Tim and were like, listen, we don't want to steal anybody from you, but is there anyone that you could recommend? But like I said, like these guys, they have no problem in elevating people. Like they want you, and I think that's always a good sign of someone who's a great mentor, is like they want you to succeed beyond what they have. They want to lift you up. So they recommended me. I went in and interviewed for the job, actually showed them a lot of my YouTube content that I had made, which had no relevance to higher education. I would say it's probably the inverse of higher education. Probably lowered your intelligence level. But I showed them that, and they were impressed with the fact that it's like I was doing that for fun. Like I was doing what they wanted to pay me for.
It shows your skills, but it also shows that you have a passion for doing it.
Because that's one of the questions, like, is this something that, you could feel like you could do day in and day out? It's like, I'm already doing it. It's like if you just, give me the name tag and I'll start doing it for you.
Well, one of the things that's been awesome to watch, and this is true with you, it's true with Amber Owens, is how the team at Indiana Tech has grown. Because there was a time when your position didn't exist and when Amber's position didn't exist. So what was it like starting a position that had no precedent? Was that good? Was that challenging? Was it both?
It had both its positive and negative sides to it. Obviously, the positive side is that I had free reign.
Yeah.
I had the ability, and thankfully they had their trust in. I had the reins, and I could just do whatever I wanted to do, obviously within reason. There's still
Yeah, sure. Well, and one of the things I admire about Indiana Tech is that it's not stodgy, but it's still serious business, right? Yes. So you got to treat it with a little bit of reverence, but it also has a sense of humor about it, which is great.
The way I've always phrased it is like I found the least corporate job in corporate America. Like
yeah,
it is. It's almost. It doesn't feel corporate, and a lot of times it's like I still don't. I feel it feels weird to say it's corporate because it really is like once again it's like that family atmosphere, and it's not. I've never made a decision in my life ever based on money. I think we've talked about that with YouTube. You know, was doing stuff
obviously.
Yeah, exactly. So me going to Indiana Tech was really about surrounding myself with people that I felt like I could be myself around. And in the fact that the stuff that I could make and the stuff that I could create for them, it was received in a way that was like, this is great. It was, it's like they actually encouraged me to keep like doing those things because it is a very real thing to anyone working inside of the like creative world is like, if you go in every single day and you're doing the same thing over and over and over again, and it's just Groundhog's Day, I don't care how much passion or how, fulfilling it, eventually you get burnt out of that.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of like reconnect yourself into your work in a way that's long lasting. And I'll be honest, for me, for the first year or two, it was a struggle to kind of like, because it's new at first, you start making it, but then it starts to become where it's like, it feels a little repetitive.
Yeah.
It's like I feel like I'm making the same thing over and over again. And it wasn't until I started to see that the relationships with the students and the way in which that you can connect with them and the way you get to learn about their journey and their path and their story, that becomes then the reason I go in every day and I want to keep doing what I'm doing is because these students have now become like, I want to do the same for them that Jeff and Tim did for me. I want to make sure that where they land is higher on the rung of the ladder than where they started.
Yeah, well, and it's amazing some of the stories you hear if you have the opportunity, and you get more of an opportunity than I do to talk to students. Some of the great things that they've done, some of the, it's funny because there was a student from the UK who was the commencement speaker.
Yeah.
And what's funny is we were doing, you were working hard on capturing the big stuff. We were doing some quick hit interviews with students. So this is an international student from the UK. We interviewed her for 5 minutes and I was like, wow, she's amazing. And then I heard her commencement speech and I was like, she didn't mention any of that. That's even better. So it's like you just get inspired by these kids, if I can call them that, and what they're doing. And that's really fun. The other thing I want to say is, I know there's some repetition to it, but you guys do some really great one-off stuff. And it's nice to see that Indiana Tech hopefully gives you the latitude to do some things that a lot of colleges might take themselves too seriously and not do.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's so good, I almost get mad. I'm like, oh, that's so good.
That's my goal. I actually, that's on my...
Like, not mad, but just like,
it's on my vision board, make Anthony mad. That's what I want to do every time I make a video.
Yeah.
But realistically, that's the mission, is to make something like that first high school teacher say like, wow, like, but this is different. And I don't know how comfortable it's like, and like you said, I'm lucky because I don't think a lot of universities, I'll take that back. No universities want to make the type of content and the type of videos that they will let me make. Now, I will preface that by saying there are some that live in a vault that I'm not allowed to show anybody I made, which are fine, but I made it. It's out of my head. It exists.
But here's the great thing, and I hope this is true in your experience, is at least the people you work with, they're willing to listen to ideas that are kind of nuts.
Oh, yeah.
Because a lot of times the answer is no, but sometimes the answer is yes. I don't know that you and I have ever talked about this, and it was an idea that that Indiana Tech was like, oh no, we're not going to do that. Good idea, but we're not going to do it. But I like the fact that it was an idea that they were at least willing to listen to. Just quickly, they were talking about, this is I think before you started, they had a video, they wanted to do like a video newsletter, but they're like, people ignore this stuff. It's an internal message. We want to do something different that'll get people's attention. And what I said is play it completely straight, except it's delivered by sock puppets. I go, because Carl Einoff's tall guy, so have a really tall, sock. And, Brian's a little shorter, so have him be like a no-show sock. And the two of them can talk. And they were like, glad you brought us that idea, but we're not going to do that. But I felt at least free to bring that idea to the table.
Well, I'm now, it's been worth my while to come here because now that's going to become something. I'm going to make that video for you.
Please.
And that will become a reality because the way in which I operate, and always has been the way I operate, is it's always that, I do it first, and then I show it, and it's because that way for me, at least the process has played itself out, and I let them.
You have skills that I don't have.
I let them make the decisions, and so. But fortunately, I mean, the majority of the content that I make not only is shown to the public, but then also like is recognized by my peers and by people. Like I get, those are some of my favorite messages when I get like Tim or Jeff to give me a text message or somebody within the profession being like, man, like that is so, like you said, it's like, I wish I would have made that. It's like, I think all of us as creators, like that's like the ultimate compliment when someone else is creative will be like, I wish I would have thought of that. Because that you're kind of like, you're still got it. You're still, pushing, those creative thoughts and you're still able to create something.
Well, and it's a weird dynamic in higher ed because you have two very different audiences. You have sort of the audience. I'm going to be careful in how I say this. I'm actually in this audience, so I have to be careful. But the established folks who are pretty serious about what they do, and rightfully so. And then you've got kids who are seeing, some of the most creative, inventive stuff every day on TikTok and on Instagram. And you have to satisfy the needs of both. It's like, how do I be creative enough to keep the attention of this super youthful, super energetic audience and still not get in trouble?
Yes. I mean, there's really no like clear-cut way around that. And the way that I've always addressed it was that I don't want to make something that's, excludes somebody else from enjoying it.
Yes.
And the beauty about humor is it's universal.
Yeah.
Like everyone has the ability to laugh at something. And, if you take it too seriously, I'm going to have to put that on you.
Yeah.
But I know that it's like I can make people laugh. I've been able to do it my whole life. And it's something that I feel confident that I can create a piece of content that it might not, you're not going to be rolling on the ground, but it might lighten your day a little bit. Yeah. And that's the kind of stuff I love to focus on because we do enough of the testimonials, which have their place.
Sure.
We do enough of the more serious ads, which have their place, which fulfill and scratch those itches of like, you need to be informative. They need to tell people about these things. But I have always been under the impression that if you can connect with people on a deeper level, that message is not only going to resonate with them more, but it's going to stick with them. They're going to remember it more. I mean, how many like serious commercials do you remember? And then how many commercials do you remember that are absolutely ridiculous?
Yeah.
I mean, you can recall basically every commercial you've ever seen that got you to think like, what did I just watch?
Yeah.
But you remember those and they stick with you for longer. And I've always kind of been on that mindset that I want to make stuff like that that's a little bit strange, a little different, and it sticks with people a little longer. Yeah,
well, I think that's especially important in today's environment where there's just so much out there that if you're just going to repeat something that others have done 1,000 times, why do it? You have to do some of the more serious stuff, but it's nice to have some fun every now and then.
Yes, it is, because there are two different types of audiences that we have. We have a more mature adult audience that's maybe coming back for their MBA or maybe they're even a first-time college student, but they have mortgages, they have full-time jobs, they have
serious
families.
Deal.
Yeah, they have serious, and what makes that so tricky is that it is my job working in the Indiana Tech marketing department is to come up with a way to make pain appealing. Mm-hmm. Like I have to make struggle look appealing, and it's not an easy task because no one's going to ever sugarcoat an MBA for you. It's not easy. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of sacrifice, and you have to find a way in which to make that appealing to that audience. It's no easy task.
Yeah, for sure.
Obviously, traditional day is a lot easier because it's like come meet your wife, you know, come meet your husband, come start
have fun for 4 years, and incidentally, there'll be classes every now and then.
Exactly. I mean, like really, like the most important part of my college career was I got to meet my wife.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not trying to undersell the value of education. I'm just saying that there's so much more excitement and things happening in that undergrad years where you can promote the fun, you can promote all that kind of happy-go-lucky.
Yeah.
Whereas like in the MBA, it's like it's nice to hear other people's struggles, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but like it's nice to hear that other people was like, yeah, it was tough.
Yeah.
You know, it was really a lot of struggle, and I don't think I could have made it without the support of this person or without the support of this person. And that to me is what's so, I guess, powerful about creating those testimonial videos is it does give you that ability to like relate to a person one-on-one. Even though it's like, everybody does them. It's like there's a reason. It's because they're wildly effective, and like as long as you're truthful and it's not like, boy, this degree sure made me smile. It's like, that's fake. Don't tell me that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a basic human need to hear other people's stories, right?
Yeah.
So that's what testimonials are. And that's, I think they absolutely do and will always have their place, but they're not always the most creative thing. They can be creative in the way they're shot, but you're basically getting out of the way so that person can tell their story. So,
exactly.
Yeah. All right. So let's pivot to the speed round of the show. I feel like you and I could probably do this for like 4 hours,
say, what is
but our listeners don't have that kind of time.
Sure they do. Let's leave that up to them.
Oh, that's right. They can always stop. Let's just keep going. No, we have work to do. All right. So my first speed round question is, what is your best piece of career advice? What's the thing you've learned? And it may be something you've already spoke to, but what's the thing that's most important in building a fulfilling career that makes you happy?
I mean, at first I probably preface that with don't rely on your career to make you happy. I mean, realistically.
That's really great. Yeah.
If you're starting there, you're probably already behind the 8 ball.
Yeah.
So I would say just make things that are true to yourself. You know, if you are making these very empty, hollow pieces of content that are just this copy-paste method that are just like, see how much of it you can push out, you're going to burn yourself out fairly quickly. If you can make things with heart, if you can make things that have emotion, if you can make things that make people feel, you in return will be rewarded by that. And I truly think that as long as you're making things that you care about for people that you care about, your sky's the limit.
All right. Second speed round question. What's one thing about Indiana Tech that you want people to know that maybe is underappreciated, or maybe a myth that you want to disabuse people of?
If I could, it's the people. And I hope people realize this far in, if they've made it this far, I'm very much a straight shooter. Not a fan of that term because I'm not sure what it means.
Buckle up. Here we come.
But it's the people. It's the fact that they care about you as a student more than, sad as it sounds, than they do themselves.
Yeah.
They want you to succeed more than they want themselves to succeed.
Yeah.
And that in and of itself, I can't speak to that on any other level other than my own personal education, where I felt like I went to a bigger school. I felt like I was just, I can guarantee you none of my professors knew my name other than like maybe one of my video, which they probably wouldn't remember me now. But I feel like these professors establish relationships with their students that are long lasting, and not just in the classroom, but like into their professional career. Like these students come back and they'll get advice. They'll get, their professors are mentor. It's someone that means something to them. And not just that, but like faculty, staff. I mean, not just the faculty, but the staff. Like I still talk with students that have graduated. Like they come back on campus and they remember me. I remember them because their time there meant more than just like, hey, let's get you in here and let's make you a student at Indiana Tech. It's like these people care and they're very passionate about your success.
Yeah, I would second that. I mean, I've been connected to Indiana Tech for more than 20 years now, and it was just different. I was like, oh, they're going to make the bureaucratic part of this as easy as possible so I can succeed. They're not going to make me stand in lines. And this is 20 years ago when that was pretty common. And I didn't really understand at the time. I just liked it because I was working. I had a young kid, and I was like, I gotta make this work. And it was like, oh, they help with that. That's great. But it's been true in every stop along the way. You know, it's kind of fun. I've got this cool bookend with Tim Allwine, who's a faculty member. He was my first faculty member.
I know Tim, yeah.
And still to this day have a good relationship with him. And it's kind of cool to like see him in every point in that along the way. So yeah, I would support that 100%. I think that's completely true. All right, last question. I'm going to give you a choice.
Don't do that.
Choice. So well, you're going to answer both. So let's just call it 4 questions.
Or I'll just answer my own question.
Yeah, that's true. So what is your favorite tip, trick, tool, hack that you use in your work that makes your work easier that you think more people should know about? Or what's your best tip for the average person with a phone and not special equipment shooting good video?
I guess I'll start that by saying that shooting a video with the proper fundamentals is vastly more important than shooting a video on expensive equipment. I will say that, you know, it's pretty irrelevant, the equipment that you're shooting on to an extent. As long as I can hear you, as long as I can see you, outside of that, I mean, you can really build a very compelling story just from that. Now, I would say the majority of content that I made on YouTube starting out was on an iPhone 6. And I did that for years. And I made things that landed on the front page of Golf Digest website.
Wow.
That was shot on a cell phone. Right next to, you know, stuff that's shot on, you know, $100,000 cameras. So it's irrelevant as long as you have something compelling to show them, compelling to say, a story that is invokes some kind of emotion in them, because as long as it's shot properly, and I just mean fundamentally, you don't need anything more than a cell phone.
Yeah, and if you don't have that good story, nothing else matters. You got the best equipment in the world, and it's still going to, not going to move anybody.
I mean, the good equipment is the last 10%. You know, 90% of your video you can make with anything that records video. That last 10% is the only part that you can improve by, and it will make your job easier. As far as like you don't have to be as sharp, I guess, which is kind of weird to say. It's like you actually have to be better at making video to make something good with something cheap. Whereas if you're not very good at video and you have a $40,000 RED camera that you have 12 stops of dynamic range in either direction, and you don't even have to expose it correctly. All you have to do is make sure it's in focus.
I just nodded through all that, pretending that I knew what Randy was talking about.
Well, I mean, it's not an insult to. I mean, so if you take that and you have a professional working with that kind of equipment, they can make some magic. But it being an amateur and having a $30,000 camera is not going to do anything for you unless you know fundamentally what to do with a $500 camera.
Yeah, for sure. So do you want to go back to the tip, trick, tool, hack, or do you want to get out of here?
It's like. I feel like I'm squatting. No, I think that tip trick wise is just make sure that what it is that you're creating, because it's like I wish I had something that's like, like lighting. No, it's like I said, as long as it's compelling story and it's something that you feel like is important and other people will find it important, they'll watch it. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's a 15-second TikTok video or if it's a 30-minute long daily vlog. I don't care what it is, as long as you are putting the time and effort into it and people can feel that genuine energy and the attitude that you put into making your stuff. That's the hack. The hack is be real.
The hack is care about what you do.
Exactly. I mean, the hack is be a real person, which is a lot easier said than done, because being a genuine person on camera you're very vulnerable. And it's not a comfortable place to be in, but you will realize eventually in life, hopefully, that most pleasure comes on the other side of pain. Most triumph, most success, happiness, it all comes on the end side of pain and struggle and fight. So as long as you're putting yourself in a situation where you're uncomfortable pretty much all the time, it just means you're growing and getting better. So there you go. There's the tip and the trick is make yourself as uncomfortable as possible. For me, it was photography with strobes. Like when I first got into it, I was so intimidated by it, but I could have very easily just never done it. Yeah. But the fact that you just lean into those painful things, you come out the other end like much better, much more capable person.
Yeah. Well, great stuff. Thank you so much. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fun.
And thanks to everyone who took the time to listen to this week's episode of the Azure Marketing Podcast. We'll be back next week with another great guest, and we hope you will join us then.